All right, guys, welcome back. I got to catch myself for a minute. This one's very special to me. You guys have heard a lot about her in a lot of my stories and a lot of my conversations that I've had with guests, conversations that I've had with Garrett. This is Mary. Some people know her as MT. I call her Mare. She came into my life in a way that I didn't know I needed somebody, and she came back multiple times, and she is the reason that I am the girl, the woman that I am today and continue to thrive to be. So, Mare, thank you so much for being here. It's so good to see you. It's been so long.
Well, yeah, it has been long. It hasn't been that long since we've chatted, but since we've seen each other face to face, Colleen and I used to see each other every week face to face on the Zoom for a while. So
it's been a minute.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited that you're here. I'm probably going to say that 100 times just talking with you. You really are a very special person to me. And I know I've told you that 100 times. I know I've told you that a million times. This might be one of the episodes that I get choked up a little bit. Joseph Ramirez, thanks so much for being here. Joseph's one of our big supporters, so he's heard a lot about you. You mean so much to me. And I'm very grateful for you and everything that you have guided me through and helped me through. But before we start on that conversation of you and I and how we met and the transformation that I've been gifted from working with you, I would love to kind of go back a little bit. And where did you start and when did you know the power of this process for yourself?
Well, I guess my journey, I've always wanted to... Are you asking about my business journey or like my transformation journey?
So I would love to talk about your transformation journey that kind of led you into your business.
Your business, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. I've always thought that I was meant to be my own boss, or I was meant to have my own way to generate my own income. So I've always kind of had this feeling that I wanted to have my own business in some way. With all of that said, in 2019, I originally was trying to build a digital business as an events coach and helping people who are life coaches, business coaches, coaches in any way, be able to create impactful events that would build their brand, that would build their business, that would help them build that know, like, and trust. My whole background is events and marketing and sponsorships. I worked in New York City in the publishing industry and then moved to Maine and still worked in media and then worked for a nonprofit as the events and sponsorships manager. But in 2019, I was trying to build this events business while also my father was diagnosed with a brain infection that they could do nothing about. He had 25 years prior, he had been diagnosed with sinus cancer, which is incredibly rare, and they had no idea what to do with him back then. He beat the odds and we got 25 bonus years, but we were waiting for 25 years consistently for the other shoe to drop. And that essentially happened in 2019. So in the meantime, in 2019, I'm trying to make this business happen. My father is home on hospice and they're telling us he has hours to days to live, and hours turn into days, which turn into weeks, which turn into months. It was, and the events business just wasn't working. I had people who were like, yes, I'm in. I'd send them a contract. They'd never sign. They'd disappear. I had people who signed contracts and would just not stop paying me. It just wasn't working. And I was investing in coaching. So I was finding myself in really a tight scramble from financially, but also just feeling very, very lost and just in the darkest place that I think I've ever been in. I had been ever in my life at that time. And I had this thing happening at home that was completely out of my control. And every day, me and my family, my mom and my two brothers, we would wake up every day going, is today the day? Like, what, today the day? Like, and he just kept being fine. And all of a sudden, you know, he came home from the hospital and we were his healthcare. Like, he was at home on hospice, but we were his 24-hour healthcare. And suddenly he went from, you know, sleeping in bed all day to being up and walking around the house. And eating breakfast and like trying to go to work. And we were like, what is happening? And at the same time, he had dementia-like symptoms. So it was like this grown man who didn't know who he was. He didn't understand what was going on. He didn't, he had no concept of reality. It was crazy. So somebody had to have their eyes on him at all times. So it was like one of the hardest times of my life because it felt so out of control. It felt like I couldn't plan, to go out to dinner with my friends. I couldn't go plan anything for the weekends. I couldn't even tell my boss that I would be into work on a certain day. It was just so out of control, and I felt myself like really falling fast into a dark hole. And then I went to I did have a conference that I had booked in December before all of this had happened with my dad, and my mother was like, listen, you're just going to stand around this house. We don't know what's going on. Just go, and if you have to come home, you have to come home. And so I ended up going to the conference, and that's where I was introduced to this program that was completely free called 75 Hard by this dude, Andy Frisella. And I say that I do not agree with his politics. I do not agree with the way that he sees other human beings. I hate to even promote him, but he did come up with this program, and I started doing the program because he essentially stood on the stage and was like, you guys aren't going to do this. You won't be able to do the 75 days. You guys are going to cheat. You're going to cut corners. You're going to this, that, and the next thing. And I was like,
watch me. I'm going to do it.
That's exactly what it was.
I'm going to do it. Watch.
I said, watch me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure out how to make it work for me. And I did. And it gave me structure where I had no structure. It gave me things that I could be focused on that were in my control when I felt like everything was out of my control. And it completely changed my life. But after I went through those 75 days, it changed my life. I didn't really understand why it changed my life. So part of that program is reading 10 pages a day. And the books I continue to read, because what I did was actually the whole entire Live Hard program. There's 75 days, and then there's 3 30-day phases after that.
Oh, okay.
And so, so 2019, I was still doing the event coaching stuff, but because my life had changed, I was so taken aback by how good I felt, how things were just feeling so good and so in alignment. And what happened and I was sharing everything on social media. I went from somebody who barely shared anything to like taking a selfie of my entire body every single day, and sharing my journey and sharing the insights I was having. And I just started having these people reaching out to me being like, you're glowing. What are you doing? You look amazing. And it's not just because you look great. And I did lose weight. That just happened to be one of the things that happened for me. But it was really just like, you suddenly are creating this energy. How can you show me how? Can you show me?
Share with me. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really, I remember I had a coach at the time that I was working with for my events coaching stuff. And it was one of the last conversations we had. And I said, all these people are reaching out to me to help them with this. And I was like, but that's like life coaching. And I don't know if I want to do that. And I don't want to be a life coach. And she was like,
I can't even imagine you saying something like that.
Oh yeah. No, I was so anti, and I was so, I just had.
Was it anti because it was like fear, like you couldn't do it, didn't want to do it?
No, it was the image.
People would want you to help them, like all of it?
No, it was like I think it was the reputation of life coaching, like what people thought of life coaching. Like Tony Robbins was really the forefront of all of that. And I remember talking about him and people being like, he stole a bunch of money from people. He takes all, he charges so much for these programs. And people say yes, and they spend all their savings and whatever, and they sign up, and then nothing happens. So I just had this, like, I don't want people to roll their eyes at me. I don't want people to think I'm crazy. I don't want people. And so anyway, there was a lot of those stories about what, this, like, not only that, but imposter syndrome. And there was just a lot of resistance to it. so I just like doubled down on, I'm an events coach. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what's going to get me my own business. And then it was just like not working. And I remember so this was February of 2020 before the world shut down. I was at my full-time job, and part of my job was fundraising and raising and sponsorships. And we had an event coming up that was our annual event. And I had people in my email every day, local businesses being like, sending me emails saying, how can I give you money to be part of this? And it was just like all this money flowing into my world. And I remember just like sitting at my desk going, why can I not do this for my own business? Why can I not do this for my own life? And I heard the whisper, and it wasn't really a whisper. It was like a loud shouting of, you're selling the wrong thing. And in that minute, I was like, literally, I remember being at work looking like, did somebody say that, or did I just hear it? And I think that weekend I went skiing with my brother, and my mom came, and my mom and I were sitting at a pizza parlor on our way home. And I said, Mom, all these people are reaching out to me, asking me to teach them the stuff that I did to change my life. And she said, you know how there's like adult ed, and people can sign up for those courses for adult ed in the neighborhood, or, with the community or whatever. She's like, what if you did that, but you did it online? And I was like, oh, funny you say that. Funny that you suggest that. Because there's my friend Jess actually has this program where she teaches people how to do exactly that, Mom. At the time I mentioned that my finances I was struggling because this business just wasn't working, and I was investing in coaching and it wasn't working. And so I had to borrow money from her so that I could, but also I heard the other whisper that I heard was my dad would have given me the money. My dad would have loaned me the money. Yes. I did pay her back. And so she loaned me the money to do Empower, which is the program where we met. And it just completely changed my life. I started the program, the Aligned and Empowered Project, based off of all of my learnings and everything that I experienced. But in the meantime, after I had that summer of 75 Hard, I kept reading, right? Because I was still doing the program. And I read books like Atomic Habits. And then I read books like The Universe Has Your Back. And I read Mindset. And I read all these other books.
I remember that one too.
You Are a Badass was definitely one of the first books I read, because that was like my gateway book into self-help.
And you shared it with us in Atomic Habits, and you gave us all that goodness too.
So when I read Atomic Habits, I was like, oh, this is why the habits work. This is why the consistency, this is why doing it every day for 75 days matters, because a habit doesn't form until you're there for 66 days. And it's like, oh, and it just started to make sense. And that's why I felt like I could turn it into a program that other people could do. But at the time, I just called myself an accountability coach and a mindset coach. And then eventually, about a year in April 2022, I actually got my life coaching certification and my NLP practitioner. And now, 5 years later, I'm a master practitioner of NLP and hypnotherapy and time techniques, breathwork facilitator, and also master life coach, master life and success coach. So that's really how it started. And that's how it was my own personal thing that turned into a business. And it's grown and evolved into so much more since then. I've learned so much more about what that mindset work even means, conscious coaching versus subconscious coaching, subconscious reprogramming, and everything in between.
Yeah. I mean, and that was a lot of the work that we did. We did a lot of that subconscious work. I feel like we did that a lot. But before we get into that, there were a couple of things that you said within your journey. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about was when your dad was very sick and you still made the choice to go to the event. And was it the Summit of Greatness? Is that where you went?
This was different. This was called Thrive, and it was with a different person, but it was somebody at Summit of Greatness who was like, I think you should really go to this event. Thrive. I think that you would really like it. So no, that it was a different Different conference.
Different conference. Yeah. Okay. How do you give yourself permission to do that when your life is a constant limbo and waking up every day and all those emotions of, yay, my dad's still here, and then you feel the heaviness of my dad's still here. Like and then how do you give yourself permission to go do something for yourself when that limbo is constantly going on?
Well, first of all, there was no part of any of us that was like, yay, my dad is still here. I will just be completely honest with you. No, he was, I mean, in April, we were told he had hours to days to live. We said goodbye in April. So at the end of May, when he was still here, and he needed to be watched 24 hours a day. He was acting like a person we didn't even know. You couldn't have a conversation with him. Every 5 seconds, he was trying to get up. Every time that he got up out of his chair, we had to ask him where he was going. 9 times out of 10, he was just going to the bathroom, but there was always that one time that he was like, oh, I got to go to work. Oh, I got to go mow the lawn. Oh, I got to go get this. And so it was not, there was no part of that was easy. It definitely was not easy for my mother. And we were very much like, we have already like come to terms with this is the end. Why is this dragging out? Now, I say that I have a very different grieving story with my dad than anybody else that I know, because we essentially were getting ready for that day for 25 years. Ooh. So yeah, it's a very different experience. My friend's mom just passed away from cancer as well. And she was completely conscious of the fact that she was passing away the entire time. Very, very different.
Her mother was.
Yes. And so very, very different than my dad, who thought he was in a hotel while we were in the hospital room talking to the doctor about hospice. Right. So like it's a very different experience. Okay. Yeah. So where I was at in those moments was not like, oh, I'm so happy he's still here. There was no part of me that was like that. I was very frustrated. I was very annoyed by everything. He was not my dad anymore. So it was like this, we had to like have so much compassion for this person who was not even acting like my dad anymore, you know? So
how do you process that? How do you process that?
I mean, it's been 5 years. So
yeah. I mean, even through it, even like, how do you process that you're staring at someone that is your father?
Well, it's just happening it's happening in real time. And when you're just like, I don't know, this is my experience. Yeah. I think that everybody has their own experience with grief, with this process. Here's what I'll tell you. When my dad first got sick, my little brother was in 2nd grade. I was in 4th grade. My older brother was in 6th grade, and my mother didn't work. So my dad was our main caregiver, and my mother was being told by the doctors, there's a really good chance that you're going to be a widow soon and a single mom. And these 3 little kids are not going to have their dad. So we were being prepared from a very young age. That was just how my mother chose to deal with the idea of death. We were being prepared from a very young age and this is where you've probably heard me talk a lot about disappointment and like my struggle with the idea of disappointment. Yeah. This is where I think it all comes from, because my mother was basically like, guess what? There's a really good chance dad's not going to make it. So you need to get ready to live anyway. And there was no like space for, we're going to grieve and we're going to fall apart and our world is going to end. It was like, this is life. People die. And unfortunately, some people die before they should. And so this is what our life might look like. So just get ready. Yeah. And she was like essentially preparing up for that for us. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So all through my life after he beat cancer and was in remission, and, you know, all through high school and college and, you know, the years after that, it was very much like, these are bonus years. And even when I was in New York City, a big part of why I came home was that I could see that he was starting to deteriorate, and I didn't want to be that far away from him. And even his last 3 years of good life, before he had the brain infection, it was 3 years of every month he was in the hospital for something. Like he fell and hit his head. He got a concussion at one point. He like got dizzy and fell down the stairs. Like he had diabetes. So he had a bunch of diabetes shit happening. So it was just constant, something's gonna happen. When is the day? So watching him was a different experience for me. It was very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
Because my life essentially stopped. And so when we were told in April that he had hours to days to live, I didn't think I needed to worry about whether or not I was going to that thing at the end of it. Right. And every day leading up to it, I was like, am I going to have to, like, what's going to happen? Am I going to have to,
am I going to go and then come and then have to turn around and come back? And
right. Yeah. I mean, I had my flight, I had my hotel. I was like, at what point do I, and I think I remember saying to my mom, I'm like, I have 24 hours now to cancel this. Should I just cancel it? And she was like, you know what? He doesn't look like he's going anywhere. So just go. And what are you going to do? Sit around here and wait and see? So she just was like, go. I have people here. You know, we had a bunch of people come in, help her so that she wasn't alone in the house with him. Well, on the days that me and my brothers couldn't be there. So she was like, just go and do the best and, you know, have the best time. And it was a relief to be able to detach from what was happening at home. Yeah. Right. And so I just kind of kept calling and being like, what's up? And he's like, he's still here. Like, he's fine.
Yeah.
And so
do you feel that prepared you or it hindered you from other very challenging situations or experiences that you were going to experience in your life after that?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I haven't had anything like this happen again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing is that a brain infection is not any way anybody should die. It is so horrible. And he was not in a hospice facility. He was at home. And until we couldn't give him pain meds anymore orally, that is when hospice could take him.
Right.
So there were 3 days of him laying in bed, unable to move his body, like the brain infection just one day took over his entire body and he was unable to get out of bed. He was unable to go to the bathroom on his own. He was unable to eat on his own. And so, and he was essentially like a grown man, but it was like a baby in a grown man's body. Like that's how we were think about that. Like all the things you have to do for a baby.
Yes.
We had to do for this grown man for 3 days. And so that was all horrible. What I will tell you is that I started 75 Hard on June 11th. He passed away, I believe, on August 4th. But what I do know, it was day 55 of 75 Hard. And so for day 52, 53, and 54, day 52 was the day I had to go home. I got a call. I was at CrossFit in the morning and I got a call while I was on the rower. And I saw it on my watch and it was 6:30 in the morning and I knew that this has to be it. So I got my stuff. I went back to my apartment. I got all my stuff and I went home and it was like, he was just in bed, like unable to move and so we were like, we're all here. Now what do we do? This is what I think probably the biggest lesson, if I'm going to say that, is that day 52, 53, and 54, I didn't miss a beat with 75 Hard. I didn't let what was happening be an excuse for me to give up on myself and this goal that I had.
Yeah.
So what it came down to was I needed to communicate with my family of what I needed, which was walking twice a day, right?
Yeah.
20 minutes for reading my book. And then the rest was on me, like paying attention to the diet, which I was doing Weight Watchers, and then making sure I was drinking. But those are the days that when people tell me that they can't figure out how to fit these habits into their life. And I'm sure you've even heard me say this. It's like, if I could figure it out, well, my dad was basically dying from
Yeah.
a brain infection, I think that we can find a way for you to figure it out as well. Because
Mhm.
what it came down to was I had to communicate to my family what it was that I needed, and we needed to work together to make sure I got what I needed, that my brothers got what they needed, that my mom got what she needed, and we worked together as a team to make sure we all got what we needed those couple of days to take care of him.
Yeah.
And I will say that looking back, it's like, I know that if I hadn't had those habits, if I hadn't had that foundation of this is how I fill my cup up first so that I can take care of him, I would have faced those couple of days with so much frustration, with so much annoyance, with so much anger and sadness and whatever, instead of, all right, here we are, let's go, we got this, we're going to do
Mhm.
this. It's not
Mhm.
easy, but we can do hard things. And there was just a lot of acceptance and love in those days of like, okay, we got to just help this guy make it to the other side now, and that's our
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
And there was just, I think that like no resentment was really, really important there, because I think that me 3 months before that would have let my frustration and my fear and everything get in the way of letting that experience be as, I mean, for lack of a better word, graceful as I could be during that time.
Yeah.
So that when he passed away on day 55, what happened was he ended up being taken by ambulance down to a hospice center. We went down there. We were there for a couple hours, and on our drive home, he passed away. So
Mhm.
I went for a walk. And when I got home, I went for my second walk immediately. And by the time I got home, my mother got the call that he had passed.
Mhm.
So it was just like, and the first feeling I felt was relief, because it had been this crazy ride for 3 months essentially. And
Yeah.
just being like, are we going to have to do this for years? I
Yeah.
mean, to have to take care of a human in that way for months, for weeks, for days, it's so much.
Yeah.
It is a lot. It is
Yeah.
a lot. And when we started being like, is this going to be how life is for years? I don't know how we can do this. I don't know how my mother could do it.
Yeah.
So, when he passed away, it was very much the relief for both of us.
For
And,
everybody. Yeah.
I think sadness, but also, of course, sadness, but relief in a big, big way.
Yeah, and
So
really what I
I,
hear you saying is that you all gave each other permission, boundaries to be able to navigate what was going on. And if
yeah,
you don't have those if you don't have the courage, if you don't have the
yeah,
voice to say,
yeah,
this is what I need, if you have no idea what you need because you never take the time to sit down and figure out what you need and learn these different
yeah,
habits and how, we feel like when when the earth is crumbling that there's nothing that we can do. Like we can't do anything. And I was in that feeling all the time when we first started talking, triggered by everything, completely unable to emotionally regulate myself. I know everybody's ready to hear exactly how crazy I was when we first met. But you gave yourself and your family gave you permission as well as themselves permission to say, this is what I need, regardless of what anybody else doesn't like,
yeah.
likes, or whatever. It's what I need.
Well, and I just want to say that my family didn't know that that's what we were doing. I knew that that's what I was doing because I was
Mhm.
the one who had this goal.
Yeah.
And there was nothing that was going to hold me back from fulfilling that goal. And so it was almost like I had to be the leader there in like,
Mhm.
I'm telling you what I need and I'm not taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
And because I was so vocal about it, everybody else followed. So I don't want to make it seem like we're a family who knows how to communicate other better than anybody else or understands boundaries better than anybody else. I had just learned through this entire process that I had to be the one to say, this is what I need.
Yeah.
Because even, before this happened, I had to have conversations with my mom of like, okay, you want me to cook dinner for everybody tonight? What time do you want me to cook dinner? 5:30? Okay, then I need to go for my walk from 4 to 5 o'clock or whatever that might be. And so if you want me to babysit
Yeah.
so that you can go have a life for a couple hours. You need to be home by 4 o'clock so that I can go for my walk and then I can be home to cook dinner. And that's just one example of how I started to learn about communication and about boundaries, which that's possibly one of the biggest lessons that I took away from that journey when it came to me sticking to my habits and sticking to my goals when shit is hitting the fan left, right, and center all around me. Right. And there's so much out of your control all around you. And it's almost like because I was so grounded in my goals and what I needed, and it was non-negotiable, right? We talked about that. Non-negotiable. It was not negotiable for me to not be able to do the things I needed to do. And I was putting that energy across. Everybody else was like, oh, okay. Well, if that's what you need, then this is what I need. So it was like I had to stand in my leadership in a really big way.
Stand in your power behind you.
Stand in my power. But I remember like people reflecting back to me, they're like, this is how you sit, like you're standing in your leadership in such a major way and everybody's watching. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. And now that I look back and I'm like, no, I was the leader in this very specific time of our life, because that wasn't something that my mother taught us. It was something that I had to learn through this process. So, so I think that's the best way that I would say that I learned how to deal with it was, but it was very like day to day. And we were just like in it every day. And so the goal every day was not to lose my fucking shit. And how can I do that? And that was about, I had to take care of myself first. And then that's how I did that.
Yeah. How do you navigate, or how do you differentiate between this idea of non-negotiables and then people hear, well, that's just being selfish. You're just being selfish. You only give a shit about yourself. Whereas a non-negotiable literally is so that for you didn't lose your shit. I need to keep my shit together. So how do you?
So this is where I would be like, well, what do you mean it's selfish?
Because you hear this idea that if I take care of myself, I hear this from a lot of moms that I've talked to throughout the years or whatever. Like if I take care of myself, I'm being selfish because I should be doing other things for other people. I need to be selfless.
Who says that's being selfish?
Society, other moms, other family, other friends. Like you get that response of like, well, you're being selfish because you take the time out of your day when you should be doing this. So we allow other people to tell us what our stories are, and we allow other people to be the leader of how we move and how we move through life.
Yeah. So isn't that the actual issue?
What do you mean?
Letting other people tell you what's up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So
I allowed everybody to be in the driver's seat when we first met.
Exactly. So this is what your question to me was, what do you say to people when they say that's selfish versus taking care of yourself? My answer is, why do you let other people tell you what to do?
Yeah.
And the real issue is not about selfish. It's about, why are you letting other people define anything for you? Why does it matter what other people think?
Yeah. That was a huge thing we worked through when we were together.
Yeah. I mean, here's what I'll say. I'm not a mom. You know that I'm not a mom.
Yeah.
But when I say that, I know that there's like this chemical bond and pull that you have with your children. There's also just this societal agreement that has been made that's so archaic, that women are put on this earth for one reason and one reason only, and that's to procreate and be mothers. And I just do not subscribe to that. And if you want somebody who subscribes to that, I'm not your person. So I probably wouldn't be the best coach for you. And also, like, that is just an agreement. So agreements are things that we have all as a society agreed to. I've said, yes, it is an agreement, right? Like I follow the laws so that I won't get in trouble. That is an agreement. The sky is called blue in the English language. I understand that. That's an agreement. We've made all these agreements. And if you agree that taking care of yourself is selfish, then that is just an agreement that you've made. And you can at any time agree otherwise.
Yeah.
But this is where it's like, well, who decided that for you?
Yep.
Is that actually true?
Mm-hmm.
What does selfish mean? In
Yeah.
what way are you taking away from your children by taking care of yourself first? Because selfish is I'm taking care of me, which is actually not a benefit for you, right? That's what's out, like, it's not benefiting you for me to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually detrimental to you because but I don't care. I'm taking care of me. And what part of taking care of your mental health, taking care of your physical health, taking care of your energy is not beneficial to everybody in your life?
I am the living example of that. And that is something that was huge in our breakthrough that when we worked together, was giving myself permission for that, to take care of myself, because I was in this constant feeling of I needed to be around and consumed with my son all the time, because I was going to protect him and it was my job and I'm his mom and all this type of thing. So I can't go do anything. I can't go take care of myself. I'm putting my kid first. And in my story, by putting my kid first and neglecting who I wasn't helping anybody. I wasn't helping my marriage. I wasn't helping my son, and I say this quote all the time. And when we have conversations, and I got it from you, when it was this idea of, I don't trust men, but I'm raising a son. It was the most powerful thing that you ever said to me. And it was like, that's great. You don't trust men, but you're raising one. Now what? And it was like, holy shit, I need to get my shit together, because if I don't trust men and I'm raising a son, I'm not going to raise him as the son and as a man. I'm not going to do my job as a mom. And so when you take back that power and you take back that permission of, now I take care of myself and I check in with my wife and I'm like, hey, I need to go to the gym. I need to go do this. I need to go do that. I need a couple of minutes. And she was the one at first that used to push me, go do this. I can't. What do you mean? I can't. I have to help. I have to do this. You work all day so that I can, have more of a flexible schedule. You don't have as much of a flexible schedule. The baby needs me. You need a break. And she's like, I never said that. You said that to you. Like I said it to you. And I was like, wait a minute, hold on a second. And it was like, so being able to stand in that, the moment that I put myself first to get my shit together, and like you were explaining during the situation with your dad, of keeping myself grounded and being like, okay, I feel the world is shaking and I need to put my feet in the ground for a second to keep myself grounded because everything is too crazy. I've been able to show up so much better for myself, for my marriage, for my kid. One of the things I shared with you when we were still working together was that Garrett wasn't having as many behaviors. And when I tell you now, he doesn't have none, other than being an 8-year-old that now has a little bit of an attitude. Yeah. But he doesn't have any of those behaviors anymore. I can actually listen to what people are saying. I can have conversations with his team and everything like that. And that all goes back to the work that you and I did together, where it's, if I didn't have that constant mirror, as difficult as it was always, I always told you that this is hard for me today, but I'm so grateful. You absolutely gave me the biggest push, the toughest love, and the biggest hug at the end of it. And I'm just so grateful for you, because if I didn't have that experience with you and that was a huge investment in myself. Now remember, and we'll bring you guys back a little bit. When Mary and I first met, it was because I was in a business program, because I had this idea to start an online business, wanted to do personal training online. And when I got in this program, I realized very quickly that it wasn't about my business at all. It was completely about the person that I was. And I was heightened all the time, and I was irritable all the time, and I was unwilling to be able to hear anything else. And that goes back to the trauma that I had, the relationship with my mom that I had, my childhood. And it was like, I realized very quickly that it was about personal growth. And then the business comes. Mare, for you, when did you realize, when you started getting into these programs for your business, that you realized that it was about your personal growth in order for your business to take off?
Well, I mean, it was, I mean, it was during Empower. Well, no, that's not true. So I had with my very first business coach, she was the one who really was like, I mean, one of the days before, I don't know if it was the day before or 2 days before I left for that conference at the end of May, I was just like, I was a puddle on the floor, and I was with her in Boxer as well. And I remember leaving her a crying 4 or 5 minute long message of me just crying to her about life.
Yeah.
And I remember her just being like, you have to go through this in order for you to figure out your business. Like, I know this sucks. I know that this is hard. I know that this is not what you want, but you have to go through this breakthrough internally in order to become the version of you that gets to have a business.
Yeah.
And so, we had a mindset coach in that program as well. She was the therapist, and we had a lot of calls where she talked to me about mindset and whatever. So that was probably my introduction to understanding how I was getting in my own way from the mindset point of view. But it was really, Nick Pags, who we both have worked with, who he was the mindset coach in Empower, which was this business coaching program. And his calls were just so profound.
Oh my gosh. So profound.
And so, yeah. And then we did he had a money mindset webinar thing that he did, and he introduced Project Limitless. So I was part of that first group of Project Limitless. And that was 100% mindset work. And so it was really then that I was like, I understand that my mindset, but it was really the 75 hard journey that I was like, when I was walking and all of a sudden I'd be like, oh shit, like, this is what alignment feels like. I feel so good. And look what happens when I'm in alignment. Look at what's all the good things that are happening for me that have nothing to do with money, that have nothing to do with it. It's just like, my business did not blow up during that summer of 75 hard. My dad passed away. Like, it was the hardest time of my life. And I ended those 75 days happier than I've ever been, more aligned than I've ever been, feeling healthier than I ever been, more alive than I've ever been, just super energized.
Yep.
And I was like, there's not one result that I'm connected to right now that's like, that I should be so happy. Like, and it was really confusing to me that my dad had passed away and I felt so good, right, at the same time. And so,
talk about a mind fuck.
Yeah. I was like, a lot of people were like, how are you doing? Are you okay? And I'm like, I'm actually great. Like, and actually it's like, I'm relieved. I'm so grateful that he's, finally on the other side of this. This wasn't fun for him either. Like, I'm doing great, which was very confusing to me, because it wasn't because my business finally figured itself out. It wasn't because all of a sudden I got all these clients. I hadn't even started the life coaching thing. I just felt so good because I was working on myself. So that was really when I was like, everything you see on the outside is a byproduct of what's happening in here. And then it was like, when I got into Empower, I really started doubling down on that, and like really starting to be like, oh, I understand that mindset is such an important piece of this. But I was teaching the mindset in Aligned and Empowered Project, right? So
yeah,
it just, I knew that it was an important piece of the puzzle, but it was almost like I didn't have a foundation to ground me to be able to discover that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, going through Empower, I was a weeping mess. Every time we were on calls, I was a weeping mess. And then I got with you and Nick in Project Limitless, and I was a weeping mess. And it's like, oh my God, like there was one conversation, because Nick also would give us those one-on-one times or whatever. And there was one conversation I had with him, and I was just having a lot of feelings and being very nasty and whatever. And he's like, great. So what are we going to do now? Because I just was not able to hear anything, was not willing to listen to anything, not willing to hear from any perspective of what he was offering. And it was like, okay, hold on, stop for a second. And again, every time that I was challenged by you, every time, whether it was Empower and then being back with you, in Alignment of Power, and then also being with you one-on-one, every time I was challenged to the max and I felt like I had nothing left, I'm like, Mare, there can't be anything left. There can't be anything left that I'm feeling. We would break through it and I would feel so much better for the rest of the day. I would be emotional with you for an hour and then I would get off the phone with you. I'd check in with you a little bit later and I'm like, you know what? I feel fucking great. And it's like, we think that there's only one layer to one thing. And I think what really helped with you was getting through, and I started it with Nick, and I think I really, really dived into it with you when we were one-on-one, was breaking down the walls and the layers of my trauma that I went through. Because I would like go there, but I wouldn't go there. I would talk about it, but I wouldn't talk about it. And it was like, it's done. It's over. I'm fine. And you're like, it stays in your body and it will always be there, you know? And I think that's the misconception of whatever trauma you go through. It's only going to, like, the trauma is only when the trauma happens and then it magically goes away. And that's not how it works. It's still in my body to this day. But the difference is I can catch myself and I'm like, okay, I hear you. I see you. What do I need to hear from you right now? And instead of allowing those emotions to be the driver of my car, the driver of my life, I take back control.
Yeah.
You know, and that really is from all the work that we did together. And I always love to ask you this: when we met in Empower, and then I reach out to you for one-on-one, were you like, oh God, this one?
No. Oh my gosh. No. No.
You were like, oh, thank God.
No, first of all, no, I remember when you reached out and you were like, and I remember the DM because it was on Instagram and you were like, you literally were like, all right, Mare.
Yes.
and you were like, you were like, I think I need one-on-one with you. And I was so excited. I was not like, no. I was like, are you sure? Are you serious? And then we got on a call and you were like, all right, let's go. Let's do this thing.
Because you had been putting up stories. It was like one-on-one. And it was like, every time I opened my phone, I would see your face. And I'm like, oh, she's doing, first it's like, oh, she's doing one-on-one. That's great. And you pop up again. Okay, Mare. All right, Mare. And I was like talking to Gare about it. I would tell her, I was like, Mary's doing one-on-one. She's one of my coaches. And she's like, that's great. I'm happy for her, whatever. And then I kept saying it. And then I was like, then I reached out to you and I was like, all right, Mare. All right. I see you. I hear you.
You're like, all right. And I do think you said, I see you. I think this is what I need.
Yeah.
And I do know that you like thought you were signing up for just the business and it was just like so much more than that.
I think I use that and many people might and many people not, but I think that I use that as a reason to give myself permission to continue to do the work. You know, the only one that I really think that I allowed to just be about me and what I needed to go through in my mindset was Nick's program, because it was a mindset program. It was sold as a mindset program. Empower obviously was a business program. The Align and Empower, we were still working on my business, even though we were really working on me. But I kind of gave myself permission of like, oh, I'm going to build a business because at the end of the day, I want this business to be successful so that I can make a bunch of money and blah, 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 blah. And the same thing with one-on-one with you. Instead of just giving myself permission of like, I need to continue to do this work because if I don't, then I'm going to feel this heavy. And I had felt this heavy for as long as I can remember. And now that I don't feel it, I can't tell you how much of a relief it is and how light I feel. And, you know, so when you really leaned into your business and you really started to feel like you were helping people, did you feel that imposter still of like, oh my God, I'm helping people? Or did it help you lean into the process more of like, look at like, I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to help these people?
Oh, no, I think, so in 2022, when we started working together, I had to double down because I was leaving my full-time job and I was going all in on my business. So there was no part of me that didn't feel like this is what I was supposed to be doing. I had to believe so deeply, but it And it was interesting because I had you as a one-on-one, and then I had a couple other one-on-one clients, and all of you had a very different experience with the coaching. And I think that the imposter syndrome came when not everybody was having the experience that you were having. And
Oh, okay.
so, yeah, so it was like, wait a minute, not everybody is going to have this journey. And so one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, even through doing several rounds of the Aligned and Empowered after that, and so many one-on-one clients, it's just that everybody is going to go on their own journey, and I have to allow everybody to have their own journey. One of the things that made the experience, I think, different, if I was to say, for you compared to others, is that you had such incredible mindset work with Nick and in Empower. It was like you already understood what coaching meant, what mindset work meant. And so you were just in a different space to be open to believing that this work can happen for you. And one of the biggest lessons I've had to learn as a coach, and especially when it comes to subconscious reprogramming, which is a big part of the work that I do now, is just that if you're not open, ready, and willing to do this work, then it won't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if there's any part of you that doesn't believe it'll work for you, or that it's all bullshit, or that you're actually not open to being coached, then it will be a challenging experience for you. And so I think that I love my favorite days are when people have, when we have a really hard call and then 2 hours later you reach out and be like, all right, I feel so much better. Or even I have a longtime client that we would every now and then have a really tough call, and she wouldn't talk to me for a week. And then a week later, she's like, okay, I just want to let you know that I'm feeling so much better. And you were right, this thing, that thing. And I'm like, okay, good. So that's the moments of imposter syndrome for me, is like, is this thing that I believe so deeply in and that I know worked for me, is it going to work for other people? And so, but there's just this big part of coaching in general. It's just like, you've been on the side, you've been a coach at CrossFit and everywhere else. And it's the same thing. If I'm a soccer coach, I can't force somebody to run faster. They have to do it on their own. I can't force somebody to learn the drills or to do the drills efficiently. They have to do it on their own.
Yeah.
And same,
I can't force someone to eat well. I can't force someone to trust the process. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So there's those moments are when I'm like, am I really bad at this? Am I not being sensitive enough? Am I pushing too hard? And there could be those days that I do push too hard because I only know, I know my limits. I know your limits. If we have a lot of time together to get to know each other, there's rapport, there's, feeling of the energy on the other side of the screen. And sometimes I might push too hard, and that's life. Right. And so, but my job as a coach is not to play small in my role. My job is to show up 100%. And so sometimes that just my 100% might be too much for the other person on the other side of the screen. And then we just get to have conversation around repair if that's something that they're open to. So I don't know. Was your question about imposter syndrome? I think so.
Yeah. Because that's the really important thing, is the invitation to the process. Like if you're going to do this, invite the process in and not have resistance to it. Because there were times in Empower when you and I would have conversations and I was completely resistant to whatever you were saying. I would just constantly come back, and in my head, I'm coming back with more questions, but it was complete resistance, where it was like, but wait this, but wait this, but wait this, and not, hey, can you explain that more? I don't understand this. Can we dive into this or whatever? And I feel like that the trajectory that I took over all of the programs that I had, with you being a part of every single program that I was in, was that when we got to the one-on-one, I really leaned into you, and I was like, almost like, this has to work. Like, I don't know how it's going to work, but it has to work because I can't feel like this anymore. And it really was when we sat down in the first couple calls, it was like, I'm in. And I am committed to this. I'm committed to myself, and I trust you. And I remember the first time I told you that I trust you. And it was a very big thing for me to say, and it was a very big thing for you to hear, because the minute that I gave you my trust, we did a lot of work, and it was tough. And there were a lot of times that you pushed me to a point where I didn't know if I could do this anymore, because I was like, this is so much. It's so deep. It's so heavy. But at the same time, I'm like, if it feels that way as it comes up, it can only, like, this is how it's been feeling for 30 something years. So if it's heavy coming up, don't you want to get away from this heaviness? You know what I mean? So like, when I was able to lean into you and say that I trust you, I trust this process, and I allowed you really to see me for who I am, and to see what I can be, that I've always wanted to be for myself, that I've always wanted to be for my marriage, and I've always wanted to be for my kid. When I was able to lean into that trust with you, I feel like that my life completely changed, but it was trusting the process. And it was a tough process, but I am forever.
Well, why do you think it was so tough for you?
For me to trust you?
The process. You said it was a tough process. Why do you think it was that way?
I think it was a tough process because it was the trust thing. I think it was a tough process because I had never faced my traumas. I had never talked about my stuff. I allowed that to be my identity, and it was stripping away my identity. Of really, like, because if I think about it, having trauma, childhood trauma, teenage trauma, all of these experiences, bad relationships with family and friends, and all of these identities. And then I carried that when I came out, and my sexuality. And I'm like, it's easier for me to live in the identity of being a victim. And it's easier for me to live in the identity of being gay than it is for me to show people who I really am. And the only person that I ever wanted to show who I really was my wife. But even then, I don't think I actually really was, because I still had those identities. So essentially what you were asking me to do in this tough process was completely strip my identity and like show people who I am. Show myself who I am, show my wife completely who I am, my kid, my friends. Like, so I think that for me was why it was so hard, because there was that feeling of resistance. Even though I trusted you, and even though we were doing the work, I still felt that resistance. And you would challenge me on that and be like, okay, I'm feeling some resistance today. Where is that coming from? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. And you're like, okay, well, we're going to figure it out. And then it would always lead back to my trauma. It would always lead back to my relationship with my mom. It would always lead back to those things. And it's like, if we're going to always lead back there, it's okay that they're still there. And I think that's the misconception, is I think that sometimes we get into this work, at least I did, was like, oh, it's just going to go away. Like, we're going to do this work and it's going to go away. But that's not the case. It's still there, and we get to hold space for it there, but we don't allow it to run every single aspect of my life. And that's really what the work with you did, was give me permission to be completely 100% Colleen.
Powerful. Yeah. I would, I think I'm also just going to say that, so the story that you have now is that work was really hard, and I would invite you and coach you in this moment
go ahead.
To maybe
this is really why I invited
story.
You to come coach me. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. I would just like challenge you or to consider maybe telling a different story about calling it something different. Right? Because we have a lot of stories around when things are hard. That means that it's not something I want to do because it's hard.
Yeah.
Right. And
Fair, yeah.
I think that this is, you know, just because we're talking on a podcast and there's people probably that are going to listen to this and then they're going to be like, Colleen is just saying how hard it is. She's also saying that it was the best thing she's ever done. So what is a new story that you could tell about this journey that you've been on that doesn't involve talking about how hard it was at all? Or if you could look at it all and just come up with a different.
Mary's my favorite. I love you. You're my favorite person on the whole wide world.
Did I tell you that she's very sad that you weren't going to be on this podcast
I'm
with
sorry.
us?
I love you. But you're my favorite. Thank you for everything that you did. Love you.
She's ran upstairs from. Oh, you made her cry.
No,
I didn't make her cry.
It was itchy. It was itchy.
You made her cry.
No, seriously, I've never gotten to talk to you before, and like really, she was a different person after she was with you for a little bit of time. So thank you. Love you.
I will say there was one time that I think we FaceTime together and you like put her on and she said the same thing. So thank you. Yeah. But anyway.
So yeah, I get what you're saying. And, you know, I mean, maybe it's more leaning with it's worth it. You know, maybe not necessarily leaning it. I'd probably have to think about a little, I mean, but I get what you're saying of this.
I mean, childbirth labor was hard.
Oh God, yeah. It was very painful.
I mean, and climbing, you know, the first time you climbed a rope at CrossFit was hard.
Yeah.
Right. So I just want to be sure that there's a lot of things in life
because things are hard and people take hard as like you said, that they won't do it. It's impossible. And it's like, it's not impossible.
How would you describe the very first time that you know, learned to climb the rope at CrossFit? Would you be like, that was so fucking hard? It was just so fucking hard. It was just so fucking hard. It was just so fucking hard. Or would you describe it like, how would you describe that experience? I only got so far the first time. I had to learn how to wear tile socks so that I didn't get rope burn. I did a little bit at a time. It was a little bit scary, but you know, once I did it, I started to really love it.
Yeah.
Right.
Or I would even say like I inched up. Like I did one and then I came back down and then I inched twice and then I came back down and where it was like I still kept moving, but I didn't allow it to get paralyzing where I never did it. Yeah. That's a good way to think about it. But I wouldn't change any of it.
Yeah. I think that like when we talk about, if you were to ask me about my approach to mindset work and this deeper work and subconscious reprogramming, and especially like this whole new level of subconscious reprogramming that I've been doing, there's no part of me that's like, oh, it's so hard, but so worth it. I'm like, let's fucking go. I need some breakthroughs. I need to get out of my own way. I need to knock down this fucking wall that's standing in my way. Let's go. There's no part of me
or like I feel that like I'm like let's go. So I get what you're saying. So stop leading so much with the challenges and the obstacles that I face.
Yeah,
it's more like let's fucking
go.
And
I don't want to not be. I don't want you to pretend that all the work you did wasn't challenging or wasn't sticky or wasn't that it was easy. Like there's no part of that I want you to ignore what it was. Like I still want you to speak into your truth, but was it like, I don't know if it was hard, but it was like the best kind of hard that you can ever, I would do it again in a heartbeat. Like that's, I think that I would just invite you to tell that story.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Mare, before we go, where can everybody find you? Where can everybody get these amazing transformations? Hit her up. She is tough and she's the best. She'll kick your ass, but she'll change your life. Where can they find you?
Probably Instagram is the best place right now, which is Mary.Theresa with H, Tringale.Tringale. That's probably the place I'm most responsive. I also am on Facebook. I'm pretty responsive on there as well. And those are the two places I probably hang out the most.
Mhm.
Don't go to my website. It tells you nothing. And
I will put her
yeah.
Instagram handle. I think I already did in the notes. I will check again. But if you want to start with the process and you want to get to know Mare very well in the work that she does, you look at behind her book, Stand in Your Power. She wrote that amazing book about the Align and Empower project that she created. Start there. Check her out. She's the best. Mare, I hope this is one of many. I would love to have you back to come chat some more and about everything that you do and the lives that you're changing. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for all your sweet, kind words. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Hang tight for a second, Mare. Goodbye, guys. And we'll see you next time. Bye.